Check and see if we live. Check and see. Peep the shirt. I'm thinking about putting this back on giftedmindstate.com. Hopefully we still live. We live on giftedmindstate.com. We should be live on YouTube. Fear no man, fear no God. Should fear yourself and the irresponsible decisions that you're probably gonna make. Let me see. Oh my gosh, what is going on? Okay, so we got part 5 now. It's funny, I said part 6 in the last part. I meant part 5 because I had did part 4 already, but like I said, it did not save. So I had to do it again. But continuing on though, church-state relations. The Christians were not respectful towards ancestral pagan customs, and their preaching of a new king sounded like revolution. What comes with revolution? Death. The opposition of the Jews to them led to breaches of the peace. Thus, the Christians could very well be unpopular, and they often were. Paul's success as Ephesus provoked a riot to defend the cult of the goddess Artemis in 664 CE. A fire destroyed much of Rome, and in order to escape blame, the Emperor Nero killed a vast multitude of Christians as scapegoats. For the first time, Rome was conscious that Christians were distinct from Jews, but there was no formal senatorial enactment prescribing Christianity at this time. Nero's persecution, which was local and short, was condemned by Tacitus as an expression of the emperor's cruelty rather than as a service to the public. Soon thereafter, however, the profession of Christianity was hold on, let me see if I got it. Okay, cool. The profession of Christianity was defined as capital crime, though of a special kind because one gained pardon by apostasy, rejection of a faith once confessed, demonstrated by offering sacrifice to the pagan gods or to the emperor. Popular gossip soon accused the Christians of secret vices such as eating murdered infants and sexual promiscuity. Early persecutions were sporadic, caused by local conditions and dependent on the attitude of the governor. Distrust was increased by Christians' detachment and reluctance to serve in the imperial service and in the army at any time in the 2nd or 3rd centuries, Christians could find themselves the object of unpleasant attention. Violence against them could be precipitated by a bad harvest, a barbarian attack, or a public festival of the emperor's cult. Yet they were also long periods of peace and stability provided by the empire, and its network of roads and communications may have facilitated Christianity's growth. So here we go here. So we got Tacitus in here. Right now we're gonna the amblaviance of official policy is perhaps best revealed in the exchange between Pliny the Younger, governor of Bithynia, and the Emperor Trajan in 111. So Pliny the Younger, you got to know about Pliny the Younger. He's also a source, but he is a source that shared information with Tacitus, and a lot of Tacitus information comes from Pliny the Younger, and a lot of Pliny the Younger information comes from his uncle, who is alleged to be a drunk Pliny the Elder. But Pliny executed Christians who were brought before him, and he refused to worship the emperor and Roman gods, but then sought the emperor's advice on how to treat Christians in his province. Yeah, that was it. It didn't really matter. I just wanted to bring in Pliny the Younger. All right, so now moving on. The First Council of Nicaea. Now we talk about Constantine. Now we're talking about Constantinople. What was going on? How did we get these scriptures, right? Because there's scripts. They're collected information from ancient myths put together collectively amongst these religious monks. So, First Council of Nicaea 325, the first ecumenical council of the Christian Church, meeting in ancient Nicaea, now Iznik, Turkey. It was called by the Emperor Constantine I, an unbaptized Koshman, a Kochumen, who presided over the opening session and took part in the discussions. He hoped the General Council of the Church would solve the problem created in the Eastern Church by Arianism, a heresy first proposed by Arius of Alexandria. We know where Alexandria is, that affirmed that Christ is not divine but a created being. So they've been saying he was fictional. Pope Sylvester I did not attend the council but was represented by legates. So Constantine's interest in church building was expressed also at Constantinople, particularly in churches of the Holy Wisdom, the original Hagia Sophia, and of the Apostles. At Rome, the great church of St. Peter was begun in the late 320s and lavishly endowed by Constantine with plate and property. By the way, if you did not know the site of crucifixion, I'm not sure if I even have that in my sources, but you can look it up for yourself. I want you to look up everything for yourself anyway. Don't even believe my sources. Look into my sources, but do your own research also. But the site of the crucifixion of Jesus was believed by Constantine. So this is why you have the holy sculpture over there, because that is believed. That's where Constantine believed he was crucified. So at Rome, the great church of St. Peter was begun in the late 320s and lavishly endowed. All right. Meanwhile, churches at Trier, Aquileia, Cirta, and Numidia. Numidia is, I believe that's a Roman province. Nicomedia, Antioch, Gaza, Alexandria, and elsewhere owe their development directly or indirectly to Constantine's interests. When we talk about Alexandria, we're going back and talking about Serapis, right? Another connection. And it said directly and indirectly. These were influences. So let's not get beside ourselves. Where do I have it? Do I have it in here? Nope. So that was it for this source right here. You can pause it. You can look into it for yourself. Now moving on. The Constantinian dynasty. Why do I have this here? Because it's very important. It's very important we understand Constantine. Look it up there. Flavia Gente, right? We talk about the Flavian dynasty. But you got the Constantinian dynasty. So, right here. Why do I have this right here? Maybe this was supposed to be, I think this was supposed to be first. Oh, no, actually, here we go. So, the Constantinian dynasty. So the description, as you see, diagram showing the Constantinian dynasty, also called the Neo-Flavian dynasty. We're going to learn about the Flavians because we know about Josephus. Josephus was an honorary Flavian. That's why he's called Josephus Flavius. It's a ruling family in the Roman Empire founded by Constantius Chlorus and his son Constantine the Great, right? Why do they call him Neo-Flavian? What is Neo? Neo means new. They're the new Flavians. Why do they call them new Flavians? Because the Flavians are the foundation, the reason for your Christian doctrines. This is the ones who hired Josephus, who wrote about this Jesus, this Jewish teacher, right? Josephus was a Jew. His name, he was born Joseph ben Matthias. So moving on. New forms of worship, right? The liturgy and the arts after Constantine, new forms of worship. Along with these developments in higher theology, various forms of religious devotion emerged, one of the more important of which was the cults of the saints, the public veneration of saints and its related shrines and rituals. Shrines were erected in honor of the local holy men and women and those who have suffered for the faith. So they martyrized themselves. The saints were recognized as the special representatives of God and were thought to be vehicles for his miraculous power. The shrines became the focus of religious pilgrimage, and the relics of the saints were highly valued. The veneration of martyrs and the growth of pilgrimages stimulated liturgical elaboration. Great centers, Jerusalem and Rome in particular, became models for others, which encourage regional standardization and cross-fertilization. Though the pattern of the Eucharistic regional standard Eucharistic liturgy was settled by the 4th century. There were many variant forms. Latin Canaan, Latin Canaan. Variant forms, especially the central prayer called by the Greeks anaphora, which is offering, and by the Latins the Canaan, prescribed form. Liturgical prayers of Saint Basil of Caesarea became widely influential in the East. Later liturgies were ascribed to the local saints, Jerusalem's to St. James, Alexandria's to St. Mark's, and Constantinople's to St. John Chrysostom. The spirit of Greek liturgies encouraged rich and imaginative prose. The Latin style was restrained with grammatic antitheses, and the Roman Church changed from Greek to Latin about 370 CE. The canon of the Latin Mass, as used in the 6th century, was already close to the form, and it has been retained. So we go down here. You see the Latin theologians, Saint Ambrose of Milan, Prudence, and Venantius Fortunatus provided Latin hymns in distinction. The ascription of the Roman chants Gregorian to Pope Gregory I the Great was first made in the 9th century, and the Greek East in the time of Justinian. Romanius Mulattoes created the Cantaconian Cantacion, a long poetic homily. Now, who is this? This is Caesar Borgia, right? This is the son of the Pope. Who is his father? His father is Alexander the Sixth, right? Original Spanish name in full, Rodrigo de Borgia, right? Rodrigo de Borgia. This is his son Caesar Borgia. Why do I have this here? Because this is another element for your Christ, your Krishna, your Christos character, your anointed one, right? And it's not only just Serapis that they took. This is the painting of Leonardo da Vinci, the boyfriend of Caesar Borgia. What else did Leonardo draw? The Salvator Mundi, right? He drew a lot of godly works. So this is here. This is all I wanted to show. You know, this corrupted Pope right here, and his son also gave you influence this pale figure of Jesus. Now here is a source of the Rosicrucians. As you know, the Rosy Cross. This is a pale. This is a oil painting by H. Spencer Lewis, which I believe he was a Grand Master of the Rosicrucian Order. And this is also where you get your is also where you get your image from, right? And also going back to Serapis, right? We're not gonna act like they didn't say this Jesus was influenced by many others. So Christ, anoint, Greek for anoint, Hebrew for Messiah, right? Christos, anointed, Latin, Christus. Why would they say in one of the sources that they mistaken this guy's name to try to give him some validity, that they mistaken his name for Christus? But Christus is Christos in Greek, which is anointed, in Masha or Messiah in Hebrew, which all attribute to this Jesus, this Savior, this salvation, right? Which is the Messiah in, look, Messiah, Hebrew. See, you got to deal with the origin. And it says what? The promised deliverer of the Jewish nation prophesied in the Hebrew Bible. Jesus regarded by Christians as the Messiah of the Hebrew prophecies and the Savior of humankind. Because the Old Testament is what? Just the Hebrew Bible. Jesus is what? Just a Jewish teacher. He was Hebrew. He spoke Aramaic. So, of course, the sequel to the prequel, the sequel, Christianity, would make Jesus be the deliverer of the Jewish nation, but instead of the Jews calling themselves Jews, they call themselves Christians. But they differentiate themselves because they think they're celebrating or exercising these rites, these rituals differently when they're all the same. They even celebrate Easter the same day. I mean, we've seen it. And then it says what? The second definition, a leader or savior of a particular group or cause. So this is this is Moses Maimonides. So he was a Jewish philosopher, jurist, a physician, the foremost intellectual figure of medieval Judaism, right? As you see, he died in Egypt, right? So his first major work begun at the age of 23, completed 10 years later, right? 10 years later, he was what, 33? Like Jesus. And you know, the whole analogy of Jesus dying anyway is talk about the colostrum in the brain, this and that, this kundalini energy, right? Bringing it up from death to light, which is the light in your pineal, because that is a photoreceptor, right? It's a transducer as well. But anyway, I don't want to get off course. So it was a commentary on the Mishnah, the collected Jewish oral laws. So his contributions in religion, philosophy, and medicine have influenced Jewish and non-Jewish scholars alike. So this is where you get your Moses from, your Jesus from, your stories, right? It says his contributions in religion, philosophy, and medicine have influenced Jewish and non-Jewish scholars alike. So now, going into Josephus, because this is all we're doing is we're breaking down Jesus now, how he got Jesus into this New Testament and where he comes from. So we know he's Jewish, right? So who first mentioned him? A Jewish historian, Titus Flavius Josephus, born Joseph ben Matthias, right? Joseph ben Matthias, right, was a first century Romano-Jewish historian who was born in Jerusalem, then part of Roman Judea, to a father of priestly descent and a mother who claimed royal ancestry. He was born 37 AD. Born 37 AD. We got to make this make sense. Jesus died when? So how was it that he was able to have any type of what's the word? witnesses. How could we have any witnesses? Hearsay, he say, she say, right? So it says right here, Flavius Josephus, original name Joseph ben Matthias, born AD 3738, Jerusalem, died 100 AD in Rome. He was a Jewish priest. He was a scholar and a historian who wrote valuable works on the Jewish revolt of 66 to 70 and on early Jewish history. Jesus, right? So Christianity originated with the ministry of Jesus, who was a Jewish teacher and healer who proclaimed the intimate kingdom of God and was crucified in what? AD 30 to 33 AD in Jerusalem in the Roman province of Judea. Right? Where was Josephus at? Born in Jerusalem, then part of the Roman Judea. This is a lot of connections with Jesus, Josephus, Jesus. It kind of sounds the same in a way. But let's go on some more. We got to learn more about this priest Josephus. So the Flavian dynasty, Josephus. New York Times had posted a article, Rome Through the Eyes of Flavius Josephus, right? Now down here, because I got that article anyway, but down here, PBS, it says, as historians of the ancient world, Josephus is one of our primary source for reconstructing history in the late Second Temple period in the time of Jesus in the 1st century. Josephus is our Bible. He is our map. He is the guy we all turn to. He is. Right? So, without Josephus, what do you have? You don't have no source for Jesus. I mean, it sounds like Josephus was writing his Jesus character on the basis of him, saying as he is the one to help convert, right? Because he was a Jew who helped the Flavian dynasty. Now, as you see here on the right, Flavian dynasty Christianity, 1st century Flavian Christians. 1st century Flavian Christians. There is evidence that the Flavian family was involved with early Christianity. This is why they call Constantine a Neo-Flavian, a new Flavian. Because you already had the Flavian Christians. What does it say right here? The Roman Empire. In 313 AD, the Emperor Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, which accepted Christianity. 10 years later, it had become the official religion of the Roman Empire. Right? And this is all dealing with 1st century. Because it says in the 1st century Roman Empire, they go to the early Christians, then they're telling you about when it actually became officially the religion. So here in that New York Times article, the luckiest traitor ever. That's what they say. In the words of the historian Mary Beard, Flavius Josephus was a 1st century Jewish general who threw in his lot with the Roman legions that destroyed his homeland. When Titus and his father Vespasian returned to Rome after the Judean War to inaugurate the Flavian dynasty, successor to the Julio-Claudian dynasty that Augustus founded and Nero destroyed, Josephus went with them. The Jew of Rome. As the German writer Lion Fishwinger called him in eponymous historical novel, spent the rest of his days living in luxury in Flavian Rome and writing the history of his times. So we know about the Roman-Jewish wars, right? We know how Josephus basically saved himself. And he joined the forces of those that destroyed his land. That's what it says right there. So, turncoat, asylum seeker, pragmatic visionary. Historians have long debated Josephus' motives and character. They not made the connections to him and Jesus, though. I don't understand, since he's technically the only primary source for Jesus. But what's indisputable is that most of what is known about the violent encounter between Rome and Judea during this period comes out of his work. What's astonishing is that with a sharp eye and a bit of research, you can still walk in Josephus' steps in contemporary Rome, where but in the internal city it is possible to map a 2,000-year-old eyewitness account onto an intact urban fabric. So I suggest you check out the Roman Jewish Wars. It's definitely good. It is literature. It's some good writing, but all in all, a lot of it is fabricated, and it's for reasons. This is propaganda. He was a Jewish general. He has to pump his people up so they can overthrow the people trying to take over their land. So the Julio Claudian dynasty, final ruler was Nero, founder was Augustus. Right? The Julio Claudian dynasty, as you see, was from 27 BCE to 68 AD. Founded in 27 BCE and finished in 68 AD. Why did it finish in 68 AD? Because that's around the same time you have all of these stories, even Josephus. So, as you see over here on the right, the titles, you got Roman Emperor, you got Pharaoh of Egypt, Prince of the Senate, greatest priest of Rome, father of the country. Now, more of the Flavian dynasty, right? You could just all of this so you could just look up for yourself. This is why I just have it here. So you got the Julio Claudian dynasty, now you have the Flavian dynasty. Flavian dynasty what? Succeeded the Julio Claudian dynasty, right? Because we talked about Josephus, right? So 68 AD is when the Julio Claudian dynasty fell. 69 AD is when the Flavian dynasty arose. So now we're going into Titus. Titus Caesar Vespasianus was a Roman emperor from 79 to 81, a member of the Flavian dynasty, right? He what it says, Titus gained renown as a military commander serving under his father in Judea during the first Jewish-Roman War. Who wrote about the Jewish-Roman wars? Titus in full, right? Titus Vespasianus Augustus, Roman emperor and the conqueror of Jerusalem in 70. After service in Britain and Germany, Titus commanded a legion under his father Vespasian in Judea. Following the Emperor Nero's death in June 68, Titus was energetic in promoting his father's candidacy for the imperial crown. Licinius Macunius, legate of Syria, right, whom he reconciled with Vespasian, considered that one of Vespasian's greatest assets was to have so promising a son and heir. Immediately on being proclaimed emperor in 69, Vespasian gave Titus charge of the Jewish war. And a large-scale campaign of 70 culminated in the capture and destruction of Jerusalem in September. And this is where Flavius come into play. Titus Flavius Vespasianus. Who do we know named Flavius? Who do we know his name is Flavius? Flavius Josephus, known as Joseph ben Matthias. Let's stop playing. Right? So this is going more into Titus Flavian, and you can pause that and read it for yourself. I'm not going to read it, but this is just a source from the encyclopedia that you can see on him. There are a lot of also some stories about Jesus' campaign over to Jerusalem and basically from Galilee, and this is dealing with Titus and his campaign to Jerusalem. Jewish revolt in the Civil War. More information on this, right? Where we at? Because I don't want to spend too much time on like this is all informational, but I have it here mainly because I already had it in my head. You can pause and read it for yourself. So all of this is more just dealing with Titus so you can understand his campaign and how it matches up with what you call the Jesus story. So the life of Flavius Josephus, the arrival of Vespasian. They talk about the arrival of Vespasian. They also talk about Josephus in the hands of the Romans, right? So read all of this here. I'm not going to go through it. Read all of this here. You know, you'll see why Josephus, how Josephus is a traitor and how he technically is the Jesus, the Jewish teacher that converted these Jews into a new religion, which is Christianity, as Josephus converted his people into a new culture, which was the Roman culture, right? So there's more on it. Josephus in the hands of the Romans, right? Talking about Vespasian, Titus, and so forth. And this is the rest of it. Very powerful information. When I do my research, I do extensive research. The information that I present is what I feel is best, to where for some people who I know are lazy and not going to do their research, at least you have not primary source, but scholarly source right here for you. You can't deny scholarly source. I mean, isn't this what we all want? The evidence. So this is Tacitus, right? We spoke about Tacitus with the writings of being one of the mentionings of Jesus, right? So he was born 56. He died in 120. He was the Roman emperor. He was the consul of the Roman Empire, and he was the governor, right? Roman orator and a public official. Probably the greatest historian, one of the great prose stylists who wrote in the Latin language. Among his works in Germania, describing the Germanic tribes, the histories concerning the Roman Empire from AD 69 to 96, which is the Flavian dynasty, and the later annals dealing with the empire in the period from AD 14 to 68. Now, as you see, he was born in 56. When he was able to write all of this, how were these eyewitnesses that was around during 30 AD alive? You gotta, make that make sense. Suetonius, right? He was a Roman historian who wrote for the early imperial era of the Roman Empire. Look into Suetonius. Suetonius, let me see what I got for him. Suetonius' family was of the knightly class or equities, a friend and prodigy of the government official and letter writer Pliny the Younger. He seems to have studied and then abandoned the law as a career. After Pliny's death, Suetonius found another patron, Spectius Clarius. So look right there though. Pliny the Younger also spoke to Suetonius. He also spoke to Tacitus, which we're gonna get into. But most of Suetonius' work was antiquarian, dealing with such subjects as Greek pastimes, the history of Roman spectacles and shows, oaths and imprecations in their origins, terminology of clothing, well-known. Is this still going? Okay, we're still streaming. What is it? well-known Corsican's physical defects and the growth of the civil service. An encyclopedia called Prata Meadows, a work like the natural history of Pliny the Elder, was attributed to him and often quoted in late antiquity. So Pliny the Elder again is Pliny the Younger's uncle. So Pliny the Elder, as you see, he was descended from a prosperous family, and he was enabled to complete his studies in Rome. All these people deal with Rome. So down here, his devotion to his studies and his research technique was described by his nephew Pliny the Younger. Upon the accession in 69 CE of Vespasian, with whom Pliny had served in Germany, he returned to Rome and assumed various official positions. There are reasons why these are primary sources, right? There are reasons why these are primary sources for for Jesus. So you could read the natural history for yourself, see in there, but it has nothing to do with a mentioning of a Jesus. This is the AD 79 eruption at Mount Vesuvius. This is speaking on Pliny the Younger and Tacitus, I believe. Yep. This is an English translation of the two letters written by Pliny the Younger to the Roman historian Tacitus. The first letter describes the journey of his uncle Pliny the Elder, during which he perished. The second one describes his own observations in a town across the bay. The translations, and perhaps not quite verbatim, but in a modern contemporary form. These letters are probably the first detailed description of a volcanic eruption. The eruption column with the umbrella-shaped cloud that is also found at other volcanoes was named after him. So, as you see here, there are connections between Tacitus, Suetonius, and Pliny the Elder, but because of Pliny the Younger, his uncle, right? Now, you can read the first letter for yourself. You can read the second letter for yourself. It's right there. Pause it. We are moving on. Pliny's letters introduced many of the leading figures of Roman society in the 12 years after the death of Domitian. Men of letters, politicians, administrators, generals, and rising young men of rank. The biographer Suetonius, as it says, was among Pliny's prodigies. So, again, not only do we have Tacitus and Pliny the Younger, we have also Suetonius, all connected. This is Justin Martyr, right? He was born where? In Palestine. He died in Rome. He is one of the most important of the Greek philosopher apologists. He is a Christian apologist. Now, this is where a lot of Christian apologists get their works from. A pagan reared, I'm reading his life, a pagan reared in a Jewish environment. Justin studied Stoic, Platonic, and other pagan philosophies, and then became a Christian in 132, possibly Euphus, near modern Seljuk, Turkey. Soon after 135, he began wandering from place to place, proclaiming his newfound Christian philosophy in the hope of converting educated pagans to it. This is what missionaries do. Just like when I brought up did I bring up Haile Selassie? I think I did. Haile Selassie, he was educated by Jesuit missionaries. Same shit. So this is what they do. He spent a considerable time in Rome. Some years later, after debating with the Cynic Cretians, Justin was denounced to the Roman prefect as a subversive and condemned to death with 6 companions. Authentic records of martyrdom by beheading survive. Right? So this is Eusebius. He is also another source for this Jesus character. But he is also another terrible source for this Jesus character. So why is he a bad source? Because look when Justin was born, 100, right, AD. Look when Eusebius was born, 260 AD. 260 to 265 AD. Too far. I'm not even going to read him because that's just a terrible, terrible source to say he is a reason we can talk about a Messiah, so forth. He was not even around. So now that we got Jesus out the way, because there's no other way to continue to break him down, because we understood where his elements come from. The trade and hold on. I may have to run real fast. But let's see. I'm gonna try to continue this because we had 200. I got 45 more. Light work. All right, so I got an hour. So multiple trajectories of Islam in Africa, right? Because we're still dealing with the Abrahamic faith, right? We had to break down Jesus because that's Christianity. We broke down Judaism. Now we're breaking down Islam, right? Now we're breaking down Islam. We got Brahma, we got Vishnu. Now we talk about Shiva, right? So, where we at? Multiple trajectories in Islam in Africa. Islam had already spread in northern Africa by the mid-7th century AD, only a few decades after Prophet Muhammad moved with his followers from Mecca to Medina on the neighboring Arabian Peninsula. The Arab conquest. You see that? The Arab conquest. So we have to put in perspective what the conquest is. So the Arab conquest was also what you call the Muslim conquest. This is where they were going and killing people to accept Islam. In Africa, they were chopping people's heads off, chopping hands off, putting people in fear so they indoctrinate their children young so they don't end up dying and, not accepting the faith of Islam. So the Arab conquest of Spain and the push of Arab armies are as far as the Indus River culminated in an empire that stretched over the 3 continents. A mere 100 years after the Prophet's death, between the 8th and 9th century, Arab traders and travelers, then African clerics began to spread the religion along the eastern coast of Africa into the western and central Sudan. Literally, Sudan is called land of black people. But anyway, stimulating the development of urban communities. Given its negotiated practical approach to different cultural situations, it is perhaps more appropriate to consider Islam in Africa in terms of its multiple histories rather than its unified movement. So it says the first converts were the Sudanese merchants. Why is that so? If you ever looked at the map and you look at Sudan and you look at where Arabia is, you'll see they're pretty close. You can see why that right there holds so much weight. The first converts were the Sudanese merchants. And when you go there, when you go to Sudan, Nubia, they're speaking Arabic. They're not speaking Nuban. Some are, but the majority of the language is Arabic. So with that said, Let's move on to more of this. So the Prophet's empire, the Islamic prophet Muhammad started preaching a monotheistic faith called Islam in his hometown of Mecca from 610 CE onwards. Prophet Muhammad was a charismatic and talented person. These qualities, augmented by his reputation for honesty, allowed him to gather quite a following. Equality, egalitarianism, equal rights for women, and a prospect of heaven attracted many towards Islam. This change, however, was unacceptable to the Meccans, who considered it a serious threat to their economic framework and unfair social stratification. So, despite putting forth strict persecution of a new religion and its preacher, Meccans failed to contain the Muslim community. As the Meccan atrocities became unbearable, Muslims migrated to the city of Medina in 621 CE, where they have been invited. The Prophet himself arrived in 622 CE alongside his close friend Abu Bakr. Medina offered Prophet Muhammad sovereignty over the city, making him the first ruler and king of what was later to become the Islamic or Muslim Empire. The city-state of Medina soon came into conflict with Mecca, and the latter was conquered after years of warfare in 628, 630. Then the fall of Mecca started a snowball event, and one after another, major Arabian cities began submitting to the Prophet's authority, as exemplified by Taif, the city that had once mistreated the Prophet for preaching his faith, surrendering in 631 CE. Seeking to retain their autonomy, opposing forces and confederacies made vehement attempts to crush the Muslim forces, but were all defeated. A Jewish confederacy was crushed in 628 CE at the Battle of Kabar, while a Bedouin confederacy was vanished in 630 CE in the Battle of Hunain. At the Battle of Hunain. By the time of his death, 632 CE, the Prophet ruled over an empire in his cradle, which was to further expand and aggrandized by subsequent rulers. And it actually did, though. It did expand, right? Because when we go all the way to the beginning, let me make sure I got my bookmark. 201. All right, so when we go all the way to the beginning, right, to my chart from the Pew, what we talk about, the Muslims is right next to the Christians. Right now, though, this is old. This is from 2015. Right now, there are more Muslims in the world. Muslims have surpassed Christian membership. So, now as you see here, Islam. See what this Muslim is doing on the right picture, but on the left side, right? Now you see in the Medu Neter, right, an inscription on one of the pyramids, what's going on. Same thing. These are the origins. This is the history of religion. I'm here to free your mind and help you get your mind straight. I'm here to make you question shit, right? Because none of this is crazy. Everything has an origin. Now, Islam, they would try to say Islam was before Muhammad. That is false. According to the doctrine, it is false. The lifestyle was not called Islam, so it was false. But as you see here, you can see why they would say that. And you will see they would say this man is practicing Islam. No, he is not. No, he's not. He is practicing whatever his indigenous culture was practicing during the time of their existence. But now we're going into the adoption of Christianity in Ethiopia, because they try to say Ethiopians wasn't colonized. Ethiopian, they were the originators of Christianity. Christianity comes from Ethiopia. No, it does not. If it wasn't for this Greek, right? What's his name? Frumentius, which we get to him. If it wasn't for him, you wouldn't even know about Christianity in Ethiopia. So the adoption of Christianity in Ethiopia dates to the 4th century reign of Akusmite Emperor Azana. Aksum's geographic location at the southernmost edge of the Hellenized Near East. The Hellenized Near East was critical to its conversion and development. The kingdom was located along major international trade routes through the Red Sea between India and the Roman Empire. See, it's all about just sharing knowledge. That's all they was doing. So, Emperor Azana was the first world leader to put the cross on coins, which are the earliest examples of Christian material culture from Ethiopia. Right? So now, talk about the religion of Ethiopia. Christianity was introduced, not originated. It was introduced to Ethiopia in the 4th century. And the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is one of the oldest organized Christian bodies. Is one of the oldest. It's not the oldest, but it's one of the oldest organized Christian bodies in the world. The church has a long enjoyed and dominant role in the culture of politics of Ethiopia, having served as the official religion to the ruling elite until the demise of the monarchy in 1974. Right. So it says here, Islam was introduced in the 7th century, right, and is now practiced by 1/3 of the Ethiopians. It is most important in the outlying regions, particularly in the eastern lowlands, but there are local concentrations throughout the country. Traditionally, the status of Islam has been far from equal with that of Christianity. However, Haile Selassie I gave audiences to Muslim leaders and made overtures in response to their concerns. And under Derg regime, even more was done to give at least symbolic parity to the two faiths. Nonetheless, the perception of Ethiopia as an island of Christianity and a sea of Islam has continued to prevail among both highland Ethiopians and foreigners. So now you know Christianity was not originated in Ethiopia, that the world's oldest Bible, as they say, it doesn't matter if it comes from there, if that's what you believe. This is not where Christianity originated. And we're going to get more to it. So we got to talk about the church, though, right? This is the Orthodox Church they was talking about, called the Tawadu in Ethiopia, right? So the Ethiopian Orthodox Church claims to possess the Ark of the Covenant. The object is currently kept under guard in the treasury near the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. Nobody has seen this Ark of Covenant. Who's seen it? But as you see, look at the original Ark down here. Look at the mythical copy. Look at the original Ark. Do you see the metal nature right there? Do you think this is in Ethiopia? This is not in Ethiopia. This is not in Ethiopia. So when they talk about this idea is coming from a Jewish originated faith, which they got the remix or the wash version, which is what? Christianity, right? They got it. They was introduced in the 4th century. They learned about this ark, which is their history, by outsiders in the 4th century. Ancient Egyptian priests with the golden ark. An ancient Egyptian wall painting shows priests carrying a golden ark. A wall of the temple of Ramses II at Abydos, Egypt. And you know about Abydos. We read why they wanted to be buried there, right? Because it's closest to where they say Osiris was buried. Now look, a dictionary of the Bible. Look at the Egyptian ark or sacred chest. You see that there? See that? A dictionary of the Bible. And they show the Egyptian ark. And you can see, look at what's on that ark, right? Look at here. Look at here. We got to stop playing the games. We're in the age of information. It is a choice to be ignorant. anything you want to know, even if it's your belief, you should want to know more about your belief than anything. It's what you believe in, but you have evidence to prove if your belief is true or not. So you can know if it's actually true, whether you being stuck and saying, well, this is my truth and my experience, and this is really happened. The ghost is really real. I really experienced my dead, whatever. Listen, our brains can't decipher imagination from reality. So at the end of the day, you better motherfucking help your brain not lack the knowledge so it can fill those blanks in and you not be believing. You could rather know. Right? So here, Christianity did not start in the motherland. 4th century, that means that's after, right? So, Saint Frumentius, look at him on the right. He is a Phoenician. Comes from Greek, though. He's from Greece. So it says, well, according to his clergy, the church was founded in the 4th century by the Syrian Frumentius, the first bishop of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. King Azana and Ascom and his brother King Sizana became known as Abrerha and Atzbaha after Frumentius converted them to Christianity, and they were later canonized. Now, I think this was supposed to be up here with Josephus. But still, we myth busting. Biblical scholars said in interviews that the circumstantial evidence supporting a link to Jesus was possibly strong, but circumstantial nonetheless. Although James, Jacob, or Yaakov, Joseph, Yosef, and Jesus, Yeshua, were common names at the time and place, several scholars noted it would have been highly unusual to have them appear in a combination in kinship order found in an inscription. The words in Aramaic, Yaakov bar Yosef Akui, the Yeshua, were carved on a burial block known as an ossuary, which presumably once held the bones of a man named James who died in the 1st century AD. Several times, the New Testament mentions that Jesus had a brother named James who became leader of the nascent Christian community in Jerusalem after the crucifixion. And the new article noted that the 1st century Jewish historian Josephus recorded that James was executed by stoning around 63 AD. So that means Josephus was there to see it. But he doesn't say that he was there to see it. Moving on. This is what I'm saying. Poor arguments. The Spanish Inquisition. This is how we get religion as far as Christianity around the world to be dominating the world, right? This belief in this idea of this God, this Jewish God, this monotheistic belief, this Abrahamic belief, right? Because the Spanish Inquisition not only just dealt with Christianity, it also had some Sephardic Jews in there, right? Now, this is talking about what? They're taking over indigenous lands. They're taking over other lands that weren't under the church, right? This is all about being under the Vatican. Now, here is illuminated manuscript, because they always try to say there's so many old manuscripts. No, they're not that old. They're not that old. The illuminated manuscript is not that old, right? But check this out. The pages were made from animal skin, commonly calf, sheep, or goat, right? It was produced between 1100 and 1600. It's pretty new. It's not old. Not that old. The Codex Gigas. Codex Gigas is the largest extant medieval illuminated manuscript in the world. Very large illuminated Bibles were a typical feature of Romanistic monist book production. But even within this group, the page size of the Codex Gigas is noted as exceptional. It's also called the Devil's Bible, and is also made out of the skin of 160 donkeys. Yeah. So here we go. Papa, right? That the Pope wants to be called Papa the Popo, right? Which is what? That's a child's word, right? For father, right? The Pope is what? Papus. That's why it says come from the Pope, right? And then you see on the right, Pope, Papus, Papa, father. Call the Pope father. Father, the Pope is your father? Oh, I thought you was God's father. So how does the Pope even become God's son then, or God's child? And how are you not directly under God then, and Pope is over you? It doesn't. None of this makes sense. All of this is hoopla. All of this is just like how they chose kings and queens, right? It was bias. It was bias. And it was also manipulation. How much time we got in here? Let's see. An hour already? Goddamn. All right, I'm going to go for another half. We see each priest, right, is wearing a fish head mitra, representing the Sumerian Philistia Babylonian god Dagon. Look at that. Dagon. Look at the priest's head, right? You see that on the left at the bottom? Now look at the left at the bottom, right? This is what's so powerful. Look at that symbol right there, right? You see the star, then you see what's coming out on the sides. It's even right there between the Dagon and the Pope, right? Now also you see there, that's Ishtar. You see with the lion and so forth. So they're literally telling you the where like the history of this I would say the get up, the cosplay, right? The ceremonial garbs. So that symbol though, where the person is holding up the wine, that symbol is Saturn. That is Saturn in front of the sun. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. But here's more on it though. Look at the Pope. Look when they turn the Pope's the hat around. Don't that look like a fish? Don't that look like this? I wish I could turn it around. Don't that look like this though? It's not the. Let me see if I could turn it around real fast. It looks like this. Gotta see if I can flip it. Come on. Can I flip it? Nope, it's not letting me flip it. But that's what it looks like, right? Looks like a fish head. That's on purpose. This is on purpose. All that they're doing is, again, originating, sticking with the Mesopotamian myth. Even though it's a little bit off, it's still all the same. So the Dagon Sumerian, right? Talk about the Mesopotamians, the Sumerians, right? Ancient Iraq. Dagon was a god worshipped in ancient Syria across the middle of the Euphrates, with primary temples located in Tudel and Tarka. Though many attestations of his cult come from cities such as Mary and Imar as well. Now you see on the right, you see the head of Dagon, the fish, god of Babylon, and you see the mitra of a bishop. You see what's the difference? There's no difference. People would say, no, this is all plagiarism. Nothing is original from Christianity. Nothing is original from Judaism. I'm not going to say that they didn't come up with their own ideas they didn't come up with their own ideas, but their own ideas were influenced. They were influenced. They needed other ideas to come up with these ideas. And they didn't stray far from the original. So, Dagon, as you know, like I like the Dogon tribe. You know about the Dogon tribe? They say they are the successors of the Egyptians. Check out the Dogon, by the way. I got some joggers on giftedmindstate.com with the Dogon's drawing on the leg. It's so fire. It actually take a picture in it. Got the flash, got the whole reflective thing going on. But Dagon, right? God of crop fertility, worship extensively throughout the ancient Middle East. Dagon was the Hebrew and Ugaritic common noun for grain, and the god Dagon was the legendary inventor of the plow. His cult is attested as early as about 2500 BCE, and according to texts found as Rosh Shrama, he was the father of the god Baal. Dagon had an important temple at Rosh Shrama, or Shamra, and in Palestine, where he was particularly known as the god of the Philistines. He had several sanctuaries, including those at Beth Dagon and Asher, Gaza, and Ashdod. Right? So when they talk about many gods and how this God Yahweh or Jehovah wanted to get rid of all these other gods, or saying there are many gods but only worship me, these are the gods that he's talking about. They're the gods that they're talking about. But they want you to only believe that this only God actually is real. All those other gods is myth. It doesn't make sense, though. What's the point of killing these people if their God isn't real, right? But gotta kill people, though, to kill the idea. I get that. Dagon was apparently second in importance only to El, the supreme god, although his functions as a god of vegetation seem to have transferred to Baal by about 1500 BCE. So you can read more on this right here. They talk about the Hittites in Central Anatolia. They talk about more of Dagon and his influence over the Ugarites. And yeah, pause and check it out. So now moving on. As you see Dagon and as you see the Pope, there is the similarities are not coincidence. This is on purpose. I promise you this is on purpose. When you do your own research and you see for yourself, you'll see it's on purpose. So here it is again. Look, more similarities. If we may judge by the remains actually found, the chief material of the helmet was iron. Copper was only used for the ring and the half disc in front, which was inlaid into the harder material. So you see the Assyrian helmets, right? You see the Roman helmets, right? This is not coincidence. This is on purpose. When we talk about the Romans, right? Who inhabited Italy first? I believe I said this maybe in the first or second part. The Etruscans. The Etruscans are Phoenicians. So of course the Romans will use this. Of course the Romans can connect with the Assyrians, which was a Mesopotamian civilization. Right? More similarities we go into now. So here's Serapis in Athens in a small temple to Isis at the foot of Acropolis. This is the temple which they worship Serapis and Isis in. This is in Rome. In Rome. So what it says, a Roman did not need to travel to Egypt to see obelisk, pyramids, and Egyptian statues, because that's how much influence Africa had amongst the world and the thinking, religions, culture. Right? Look how beautiful that is. But even though Serapis obviously was a Greco-Egyptian creation, right? It still was influenced by who? Osiris and Apis, right? It says it right there. Serapis, Osiris and Apis. They're literally putting both of their names together, but just putting Sir. So here you go. An Egyptian goddess worship from England to Afghanistan. Cleopatra became the new Isis. As Egypt was becoming Rome, Isis became universal. Come on, baby. We're not going to act like none of this was influenced by Africa, baby. Come on. Look, let's go. So, from Queen of Egypt to protector of the Roman Empire, right? Serapis and Isis. Isis nursing Horus on Roman coins, right? You see the coins right here. And then you see this is all dealing with Egypt, right? You got Commodus thinking Serapis and Isis. Julia Damana, Isis nursing Horus. You got Claudius II, Serapis and Isis. Then you got Isis suckling Horus, right? All these coins here. So, continuing on, we got 20 more. Dogma. This is what we've been talking about this whole time. All of this shit is dogma. What is dogma? A principle, a set of principles laid by an authority as incontrovertibly true, right? What are they trying to say? Just like God's word, right? They say God can't lie. God's word is God's word. You can't say God didn't say this, whatever. That is dogmatic, right? So what does psychology today talk about dogmatic religion? It stems from a psychological need for group identity and belonging, together with a need for certainty and meaning. There's a strong impulse in human beings to define ourselves, whether it's as a Christian, a Muslim, a socialist, an American, a Republican, or as a fan of a sports club. This urge is closely connected to the impulse to be part of a group, to feel that you belong and share the same beliefs and principles as others. And these impulses work together with the need for certainty, to the feeling that you know, that you possess the truth, that you are right and others are wrong. What they say about Christianity, what do they say about Islam? What do they say about Judaism? Can't tell them Jews they're not the chosen people. Can't tell these Christians Jesus is not coming back and he died for them. You can't tell these Muslims that Prophet Muhammad existed and motherfucking he is the prophet of this God, of this Abrahamic faith, the successor, right? Can't tell them nothing. It's dogmatic. So at the root of these impulses is a fundamental anxiety and sense of lack caused by our sense in being distinct individuals existent in separation to other people in the world out there. What does that mean? A lack of self-love. So you're using this to compensate for the lack of self-love. Instead of having knowledge of self, instead of doing self-reflection, understanding yourself and how you got here. And it's okay to delve into religions. It's okay to delve into world history and so forth. But you have to also know yourself. You have to separate these things from yourself, as these things you may relate to, of course. We are all humans. We are going to relate. This is just human nature. But you have to also love yourself and not put anything above you, right? Not a God, not a Abraham, not a Jesus, not a Isaac, not a Muhammad, not a anything, right? But you can't tell people what to do. This is dogmatic. This is dogma, right? So this generates a sense of being cut off like fragments that were once part of a whole. There is also a sense of vulnerability and insecurity caused by insignificance in the face of the world, right? It's lack of self-love. As a result, we need to bolster our sense of self to strengthen our identity in religion and other belief systems to help us to do this. Because people lack self-love and they don't look into how to obtain self-love. How are you going to obtain self-love? You got to have knowledge of self. You got to become self-aware. Know your triggers, know what you like, know what you don't like, know what ideas was influenced by who and when, going all the way back to your childhood. Do the fucking work. Stop being lazy. Do the fucking work. Love yourself. That's all I want. That's why I'm here, to help free your mind, because I want you to love yourself. I want you to love yourself more than you love this religion. I want you to love yourself more than you love this God, because guess what? You thinking that you love this guy is meaning you love yourself. That is far from the truth. That may be the truth to you, but that is not the truth. And I'm sorry to break it down to you, but that is reality. So dogmatic religion is dangerous because it creates an in-out group mentality. This is Psychology Today. This is written by a collective of psychologists. It encourages people to withdraw empathy and morality from other groups. Isn't that true? Don't they say when you don't believe in God, don't believe in Jesus, you're deemed to go to hell? I can't. They say that's not what I feel. That's just what's gonna happen. That's just in what I believe. But it's what you believe. If that's your faith, that's what you believe, then you're deeming me to some fucked up situation, which is not gonna happen, of course. But you want that. You're thinking that's gonna happen. It's fucked up. Fucked up way of thinking. You have no. You're not being empathetic. You're not understanding that people could be good people and without having to believe in what you believe in, right? So it says withdraw from empathy and morality from other groups to see them as inferior and ignorant. Yes, they do. Other groups can be seen as general entities rather than as a collection of different individuals. And when two groups are thrown together with their different beliefs clash, and different beliefs that are affront because they suggest that their own beliefs may be wrong, conflict and warfare are always close at hand. Conflict and warfare. Didn't we talk about conflict and warfare? How did I start off this presentation? Religion may cause temporary blindness in small doses. In large doses, it may cause death and war. Keep away from children. Huh? It may cause death and war. And what are the psychologists telling you? The people that study our brain, they take the time out to study our brain, right? But now let's get into more of these similarities to break down the religion and the history of where we get this religion from. So Solomon, right? They say King Solomon. King Solomon never existed. King Solomon is also pushed a lot by Freemasons, right? Because they want him to exist. They would love for him to exist so they could believe in this what's that motherfucker name? Something Habib. I forgot the motherfucking name. I'll think of it later. I think it's in my Freemasonry presentation anyway. But Solomon. Does Sol, and on mean the same thing? That's what I Googled. Here is the name Solomon is said to be constructed in English. Sol, on. Sol is Latin for the sun. Om is Sanskrit for the sun, and on is sun in Egyptian. And if you don't know, here is a dictionary for it. Sol for the sun, right? Or form of Solomon, right? Also Indo-Iranian god Mithras, right? Going back to the sun. Then Om. It is a holy meditation symbol of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, right? With a profusion of historic meanings. And then on, biblical name of Heliopolis, right? For sun. Greek, that's Heliopolis is Greek Egyptian, Greco-Egyptian. So here you go. And it says here, yet the empire of David and Solomon is not mentioned in any near ancient Eastern source. Monumental reliefs and statues, palaces, ivories, jewelry, and all the normal signs of the sophistication required to run an empire are lacking. There is no archaeological evidence for the existence of these heroes or for the occurrence of any of the events with which they were associated. If it were not for the sacredness of these stories, their historicity would certainly be rejected. So there's that. Here we go. Huh? This is what's that? Kappa beta kappa. What's that? Kappa something kappa. I forgot y'all shit. You know what it is though. You know what it is. Y'all Eastern Star Order derived sorority, right? Y'all know what y'all be doing. So the word volcano comes from the Latin volcano god Vulcan or Vulcanus, derived from the older Cretan deity Vulcanus. He was said to be a great. When we talk about a volcano too, we talk about Moses, right? So look at what they're doing. Right? Now you see that, right? See that. This is your Spock. When you look into Spock anyway, you're going to see he got this from the Vulcans. So look at that. Look. Put your hands together though. It's the sorority, Kappa something Kappa, right? This is they shit. But this is also we know this is music industry shit too. We know this is also sports entertainment industry shit too. We know what this shit is. Now, volcano. When we talk about a volcano, we talk about Moloch. This is the sacrifice to Moloch, right? So after they started doing sending children into this fire, right, this volcano, then it became the lambs or the sheep. So this is called the priestly blessing or the Cohen hands, right? If you Google Cohen hands, just like how it is Cohen, you will see a lot of Jewish tombstones with this symbol. Who else got this symbol? We'll talk about the rap industry. Lear Cohen.